An adventure or what? We don't need unexplained phenomena. I hope you guys are enjoying this journey we're taking you on. I know you come expecting to hear about big cats, cryptids, UFOs. We will touch on some of that, but I think it's worth sharing some of this for you, don't you? There's only 2 living souls up here today.
Because I can see it in my mind, I can see it in my head what I saw, but I can't describe.
Our eyes was closed, like a brightish light in my face, and I just felt paralysed.
Someone said there's something out there, so we had a look. It looked like a walnut. That's the only way I can describe it.
It was like it had loads of tiny little windows all over it, and it had lights in those windows, but not a light that illuminates.
Anyway, we were ushered into this lounge. This fella came in, he said, whatever you saw was a weather effect.
And everything is deathly silent. There's no sea, there's no wind, there's no night noise, because, you know, there's foxes all over here. There's nothing.
Nothing. Hello everyone, hope you've all had a great weekend, and great to see you all. I'm looking already and there's quite a few in chat, so not been a bad weekend. Very warm though, hasn't it, guys? So hope it cools down a bit, then we'll be moaning that it's not warm enough. But just as always, tonight we're going to just kick around a few reports that have been sent in to me, give you my views for what they're worth. I think they're no more valid than you guys. And I want some questions from you, capital letters, and let's just roll with it. I've been really busy last week, which I really enjoyed, to be honest with you. You know, apart from other things, I said on early morning live stream that I fitted in, ended up at Filingdales, at the back of Filingdales as well. So that's a little bit of footage that you're going to see that people don't normally get to see. And, you know, we sort of walked back there, told a few accounts of UFOs and other things. Ended up at Glaisdale a few days before with James Coppett and Steve. Steve went with us to tell us this strange story. I touched on it other morning, but I'll probably do it again today. So, yeah, questions in chat, please, and capital letters. And let's see how this sort of unfolds, shall we, tonight? I see Disabled Welshman's in, Moldavite. Good to see you. Lee's doing moderating. Al Durham, good to see you, Al. Let's have a look. Tony Dixon, hello, Tony. I think we spoke in week, didn't we? Mag Sue, I think Linny may be in. I know Mia Girl's in. All is great. Great to have your support. Jack Newcastle, Richard Mason. I think Gemma's doing moderating as well. Let's have. I saw somebody said Sandman. Studio 211's given me a question. Oh, brilliant! That's how I like it. Thank you for that. It saves me having to think, doesn't it? London Girl, Sandman, Banana Joe, all good. And let's just keep it rolling, shall we? And you're only getting my thoughts on unexplained phenomena, guys. As I say every time, it's your streamer, but your thoughts on this subject are just as valid as mine. You know, you'll watch loads and loads of podcasts in UK and all over the world, and there's loads of people sit where I'm sat now or in a similar position, and they want to be experts. None of us are. We're all feeling round in dark, and we're all looking for little bits of pieces to puzzle, and that's why you're here now, and that's why I'm here. So let's just see where this lands. I've got a few stories to share with you guys tonight, and some interesting ones. I've got, you know, there's one that's fascinating, a doppelganger one, and it dropped into my into the spam folder. So he'd sent it me a few weeks ago, and I would have been on it straight away. It's not pages and pages, but it's really fascinating. So let's just have a look at Studio's question. See Gemma's there, Richard Mason. Let's have a look. Lee Hopkins, Banana Joe. We've done all this, and Lord Jim Dandy. And Linda Met. Right, okay. Let's get Andy's question here. Let's have a look. Thank you for this. Paul, some have claimed the Silpho saucer was an elaborate and obviously expensive hoax. Did anyone ever come forward to claim responsibility? What are your thoughts? Hey, that's a great question. Shall I tell you why? Because I was at Silpho last week, and it fascinates me, the Silpho saucer. And for anybody that doesn't know, this is an alleged tiny flying saucer about 18 inches in circumference, made of copper, probably a hoax, that fell from the sky. If you want to say it landed, nobody really knows, but people saw it descending onto what's called Silpho Moor in 1957, November of 1957. So it's a great question, this, because It were revived again. Back in the day, it made all newspapers, and people interested in ufology jumped all over it because obviously it's an alleged flying saucer. And it were revived again, I don't know, a few years ago when Dr. David Clarke were doing a lecture, and I think one of the curators from where he was doing the lecture brought in some alleged fragments or a box with some flying saucer pieces. Now, I'll tell you what, I never realized, I never knew that it actually said Silpho saucer. I always thought that it just said flying saucer pieces, and then it was just sort of assumed that they were from the Silpho saucer. I were wrong, because in the box it did contain a little bit of paper that said Silpho saucer, which is interesting. So who claimed responsibility? Nobody, from what I know. One of the men involved were a solicitor. 3 men apparently were driving on the moor, I think, and they saw this thing come out of the sky, stopped the car and walked to where this thing had landed, or one of them did, past another couple en route as he's walking towards this. Now, I've been to Silpho, guys. I don't want to bore you with this because there'll be some people thinking, I've never heard of this location. When you look it up, there's nothing there. There's probably 12, 15 houses. I might be being generous with that. Old properties that have been there many, many years. So the chances of 3 people or 5 people, the couple and these 3 men, being on the moor in November, I think are extremely rare. So I find that one interesting in itself. The only thing in Silpho saucer's favour, and I don't want to bore everybody with this, is that allegedly the copper was tested by the Non-Ferrous Metals Association back in the day, and it was found to be of an extremely high purity. Nothing used in commercial sort of, I don't know, water cylinders or copper pipes. So I found that bit interesting, plus the fact that there was allegedly a book inside it of copper plates, and each page of the book these pages of the book were very, very fine, very thin, but each page was laminated with 4 other sheets. So brilliant. And that's the Silpho saucer. Do I think it were a hoax? I do, but I think it were a really, really elaborate hoax. And I think the Silpho saucer, even though that Dr. David Clarke looked at some pieces, some fragments, I think the bulk of it is still somewhere in Scarborough. I really do. I traced an old solicitor, because a solicitor were involved who found it. I traced an old solicitor from Scarborough who knew the man who found it. And I'd just come to a brick wall because he couldn't get no further with it. But it fascinates me. It really does. November 1957. I don't know why I thought it was 54 for years. I don't know. But great. That's kicked it off as that 212. Nobody came to claim responsibility for it. And they were on this book. Before we end this, it was filled with little symbols. You could call them hieroglyphs, just filled with them, and allegedly it were decoded. Perhaps we ought to do a full hour with a little bit more sort of research and on the Silpho saucer and get the images up and everything. It's really interesting, this, simply because I'm actually going to meet Dr. David Clarke, and this question that's just been put up here. It purely is coincidence because I'm meeting him this week and I want to talk to him about Silpho saucer. But there you go. Right, let's just go down here a little bit just in case there's any more questions. Victoria and Brian, let's have a look. Paul, I emailed you last week about my Green Man experience on way back to Bridlington. Do you know something? I haven't got it. Can you email it me again? I'm sure I haven't. But as I say, this other one that I've got here, which I'm going to get through to you guys today, the doppelganger, that dropped into the spam folder, so I'll have to have a look. But I do want to hear it. I mean, I've got another cryptid report just today, and the guy wants to remain anonymous, but he is willing to meet me. So I'll get all the information on that, and that's something very similar to what Michael saw, who was driving his electric bike on the way from Burton Fleming to Bridlington. Saw this thing running across the field. And this is what's brilliant about doing these streams, because this guy who's messaged me today has obviously been looking for a few clues to what he saw, come across Michael's report or Michael's sighting, and it's given him confidence to share a little bit, in which case I'll be sharing that with you guys. So Green Man Experience, I'm going to be fascinated with that, Victoria. So yeah, please, let's have some more of that. Let's have a look. Hi, Paul. Has there ever been any reports of cryptids around Thornwick Bay area and the caves? Dennis White. What a good question, Dennis. I got a report years ago, and I don't even think I could lay my hands on it. I've looked, and that was some people that had gone into one at large sea caves and claimed to have seen something stood with its back to them in the sea cave. Now, I don't know what it was. They said it weren't humanoid as such, but when I throw these things out, guys, we've got like 260 people in chat. The people that come to me and share these stories, a lot of the time, they've got nothing to gain. And you've just asked that question, Dennis, and that somebody's come to me and shared this one about the creature in the sea cave. I understand if you're anybody looking at this who goes, until I see it, I can't believe that. I have full respect for you. I have full respect for anybody who has that mindset. And you might just be here just looking because you're thinking, just amusing yourself. It's the ones that are rude that I can't do with, when some good people have come forward to share their experiences and people are just plain and flat blank rude to them. We're not having none of that. But if you don't believe it, that's your right, and your right to say so as well. But Thornwick Bay area cryptid reports. We've made our film Wolflands, which is behind me there, guys. Which is available on DVD. I don't normally say this early, or it's available on Amazon Prime. And we got a report on the cliff tops at Thornwick Bay from Jamie and a friend, or instead of partner then, and a friend. Jamie and a friend claimed to have seen this, and I can't remember year. Someone tells me it was 2020, on the end of one of the nabs, the outcrops of rock in the night. And then there's another one further up, in between Bempton and Flamborough, where two former military guys claim to have seen something on the cliff tops. So, yeah, there are reports. And I'll tell you what I like. I like the concentration of reports in a localised area. So the one, not Thornwick Bay, actually, top at car park at North Landing. But, Dennis, you obviously know area, so you know it's not far away. So we got that one. They've got one in between Bempton and Flamborough, and then there's a guy who was on the camp at Thornwick Bay and went for a walk in the night and claimed that he'd seen the huge silhouette of something that weren't human. Frightened him so much because he'd already walked past it, whatever it was, and when he turned round and saw it lowering into grass, he then walked back that way again. So he walked to the RSPB, then up onto the road and all the way around, which would have been a hell of a walk at night for him when he weren't planning on doing that. Incidentally, just before seeing what this man had seen, he saw lights on the north side of Danes Dyke, because it were in close proximity to the north side of Danes Dyke. And he thought it was somebody just walking along with a torch, and he'd just seen them, and he were expecting to bump into somebody and never did. But he'd walked past the dyke, and that's when he saw this thing. Are the lights connected to these cryptid sightings or reports? I don't know. Who can say? Are we somehow influencing them by talking about them, bringing them into more prominence, or is talking about them giving more people confidence to come forward with reports? I mean, the one today is very close, so I'm told, to Thorpe Hall, which is not far from where Michael had his sighting at Boynton. So once again, we've got these concentrated areas. Do I believe that something akin to, I don't know, Bigfoot, werewolf, dogman, whatever you want to call it, is resident in this area? Not at all. So there'll be people rolling their eyes now saying, well, what's he on about then? Why is he reporting it? Because we're talking about something that I think that's paranormal, something that is capable of interacting with us and entering our sphere of existence. And I realize that's kind of a sweeping statement. It doesn't give any scientific fact because I haven't got any, but something's clearly presenting at times, and then just literally it appears to be able to vanish. And you don't have to believe it, like we've said, but I for one do fully believe it. That the people that have spoken to me, or the bulk of them, are telling the truth. I've got one lady who shared a cryptid report with me whilst she was travelling on the train into Bridlington, and she saw it near what would have been the strawberry fields where they held the car boot sales. They're now building houses on it, and the train were passing, and she saw something there. And I think we've been talking on and off for about 2.5, 3 years. And I'm not really I've got it all written down, but I'm not going to run with this story till I know that this lady's comfortable. It really disturbed her by what she'd seen. So there you go. Let's just get rid of that. So a few reports on cliff tops and around the cliff tops. There'll be more. I just need to kind of give me head a shake, don't I? Let's have a look. We don't normally get questions this early, so I'm not moaning. Jane Louise Harding, good to see you. Lee Hopkins, Rachel Martell, Kitty Catty, Steve Wills. Hey, good to see you, Steve. We'll have to get Steve Wills on live stream, guys. He'd tell us loads and loads about lots of UFO reports and particularly where he lives. So we'd really the Warminster thing. We could go back years and years, and Steve's got lots of knowledge on all that, as has John Hanson. So Lord Jim Dandy, let's have a look. I'll stop rambling. Sorry, guys. I don't know if Lynn is in. Pete will be in, I hope. And let's have a look. Looking down into the whole of Hawkham, the mind boggles as to what went on there in the past. It's fabulous, Simon, isn't it? Now, we're up round that area, as I say, last week. And the landscape is just incredible. There were me, Chris Wright, and the Bobster on a very hot day. Kept him hydrated. He loved it. We did over 10 miles. We were walking around Filing Dales and then on and back round. It was incredible. And it's that remote and sort of the land is just untrodden. As we were walking, there were adders, the snakes on the logging roads, just laid out there, just absorbing the sun, soaking the sun up. Slow worms. Managed to film them as well. So yeah, really interesting. But the mind boggles, yeah. All that area. And when you look at all standing stones around the North Yorkshire moors and you look at the burial mounds and they're just stood in complete isolation to anything, but you realise that thousands of years ago it weren't like that. I mean, the landscape could have been vastly different as well. But what I'm meaning is that they were occupied. Even though the populace would have been a lot less than it is today, these areas must have been occupied, even though they're not now, to have left their marks on the land. And why did they leave stones on the land, standing stones, stone circles, the Rudston monolith? Why were they left there in these locations where we're getting reports of unexplained phenomena? Do you think that the early people marked the land, marked it knowing that strange things happened there? Is there that possibility? Yeah, I suppose we're never going to know, are we? But it's worth kicking around. Thanks for that, Simon. Let's have a look here. Dragonborn, Christopher Denise. Hi, Dragonborn. Great to see you. I hope you're feeling a little bit better. 555. I'm just running down these. Philip Morgan. Philip Morgan's a guy who comes up onto cliff tops with us. The bravest man I know, Philip. Walks about all over in dark. You really do, don't you? Paul, any more new reports from the Stakston, Wold, Flixton area? No. I do plan to go to Flixton. I was in Stakston Wold a couple of weeks since. I went up there, just rambling on myself and dog. And I do fancy going to Flixton. I don't know. I don't think I'll make it this week, but I do fancy it. I've got another report, though, Philip. And if Steve Collins in, I've got another report from Willie Howe. And Steve, I mentioned Steve because when Chris Turner came a few weeks ago and we did some filming, Steve kindly contributed to the documentary for us and told us about what he experienced while sat on the burial mound of Willie Howe. And it'll be, I don't know, Steve will correct me if I'm wrong, but it's probably about 18 months since. And he sat there just having a coffee, absorbing the beauty of what this burial mound is and surrounding landscape. And then heard some very, very heavy sounds literally behind him, 6 foot behind him. And there's only the burial mound 6 foot behind him. It sounded like huge metal doors, he said, clanging shut or falling. He got up and had a look to see if there was any farm vehicles or any machinery moving about, and there's nothing. What time are we here? 90 minutes. And there's nothing. And obviously it puzzled him. He actually felt the vibration under where he was sat. So that's fascinating. And he recorded something on his phone and he weren't using his phone. So, and I'd forgot about that little element that he'd got, but he's still got the recording, and we'll get that to Chris to add to documentary. So I got another report, because I've spoke about Steve's strange sound that he heard on, stop doing that, Paul, on Burial Mound. And somebody's listened to it and said that they've been stood within the burial mound. I'm not advocating everybody does that, but I can't stop people doing it, can I? Stood within the burial mound, kind of meditating, and said that they've heard rumbling below their feet. It could just be geology at land and some, I don't know, movement underneath. It's not supposed to be anything mythical, is it? But fascinating nonetheless. Let's just... sorry about not having nothing from Staxton Wall. Paul, what are your thoughts on orbs? Lord Jim Dandy. Well, I call them ILFs, intelligent light forms. And I don't mean that they're all intelligent. We know we've got earth lights. We know that the tectonic plates produce these orbs. But we've observed, and I say we, I don't just mean myself, we've observed lights on the wolds, the East Yorkshire wolds. We've observed them on the cliff tops, and there's an intelligence, there's an awareness to them. I'm doing it again. I'm jumping to this light that visited us. I do it every week. I think I've talked about it every week since it happened, but that's how important it was to the 7 people that were there. It interacted with us. It was nobody's torch. I can't even explain it. I can't even begin to explain it. What are my thoughts on them? There's an intelligence and an awareness to them. I find it fascinating, that in some of the cryptid related reports, orbs are seen before or after. Some people have even said, and I've had no reports of this to me personally, but I've heard that they've said that they've seen the cryptid being accompanied or paralleling orbs. Whether this is true or not, I don't know. But don't you find it fascinating that the orbs, the spheres of light, once again, we talk about the everything being connected. Well, the orbs are pointing question, as well as the mind speak, but the orbs, they seem to be prevalent in everything. So if you're interested in spirit, or some people call it ghost hunting, I think it's a bit demeaning saying ghost hunting, but it sounds wrong, doesn't it? To me, anyway. Some people will not agree. But if that's what you're interested in, a lot of people report orb activity, spheres of light, cryptids, orbs, UFOs, orbs. It's the same type of phenomena, the same thread of the sameness running through it all. There's so many. That's why I say, me personally, we should never get entrenched in one genre of the unexplained. Don't just sit yourself with UFOs or cryptids or spirit, mediumship, ghosts, because there's a link to it all. I could understand that you might have a passion for one particular genre, maybe because that's the reason you're involved in it. That's what sort of attracted you to it. However, don't rule out everything else just because you might not have had a little taste of it. I mean, the orbs, prevalent through all the genre of the unexplained. The mind speakers, we've done this before. Clairaudience, spiritualism, where the medium hears the voices. Alien abduction, hears the voices. The cryptid phenomena, speaking directly into people's minds. It's got to be the same type of exotic science that's running through it all, don't you think? Correct me if I'm wrong. I could be wrong, couldn't I? Let's face it. None of us really know. We've got Al Durham's got a question. Let me just have a bit of this tea, Al. Let's have a look. Any reports from a little further north of you, thinking Saltburn, Redcar, Burn, Artley? I do, Alan. There are reports, and not quite as far up, but Port Mulgrave, which I know you'll be familiar with, and they're all places where there's very little habitation. Yet we're getting reports from up that way. The cryptid-related reports along Port Mulgrave and up towards Skinning Grove, which is even further. And I'll speak to you after that, Al, because there's there's one I want to run past you, because there's quite a dark one from up that way, which I'll not talk about on here, but there is, and I know that you like to look into things and you look into it thoroughly. So I'll speak to you later about that, mate, if that's okay. Let's just go down here a bit. Dragonborn. Let's have a look. How did the filming go last week? Are you getting any nearer to production? Well, I think we've got enough footage. I think, as regards content to put into this documentary, I've got to jump on it with Les now. And, we're probably 3/4 there with footage for what myself and Les are doing. And it's nobody's fault. Les has been busy he's working on this boat in I think it's Hull Marina. And I've just got absorbed in what I like to do. And let's face it, I do like to do what I want to do, kind of thing. We all do to some degree. But Chris came last weekend, and Lee, and we did all sorts. We crammed quite a lot in. And as I say, we also interviewed Steve and got a lot more done as well. So there should be enough content. When it'll be ready, Dragonborn, I don't know. Chris, obviously Chris has got a busy schedule. He's got his own actual day job to sort of do as well. So it's not always easy, but it was good. We enjoyed it. And then, as I say, as soon as they'd gone, I went to, where did I go to? Glaisdale. I've got loads of little stories to tell you guys, but I want to tell you about Glaisdale. And if Steve's in, because I'd never met him until, what day did we go? We went Monday or Tuesday. It's irrelevant, isn't it? But we went to Glaisdale. I drove to Scarborough. James Coppett picked me up. We picked Steve up en route, the guy who'd had this experience. And we drove then past Fylingdales, up along the moors, and we got to Glaisdale. And this guy's a taxi driver. And I told this on the stream, the early morning stream the other day. So apologies because you're going to hear it again. See Mel Souters in. Good to see you, Mel. Simon Riley, Mag Sue. I hope you're feeling better, Mel, as well. Yeah, let's have a look. London Girl, we've done that one. So I can't remember the year, but he's picked a guy up and he's taking him back to Glaisdale, which is well out of the area of Scarborough, and it's late at night, in between 1 and 2 in the morning. He's driving these roads. They're totally unlit. There's no street lights. There's no houses. You see, at 1 and 2 in the morning, you might not even see lights, but you might see odd farm a few miles away, and then another one. It's very, very sparse. And he's driving along this road, and which we actually went on. That's why, and we drove all that way just to hear a 10-minute story, but to me it was worth it. We go around this corner, single track road with a few pull-ins. There's sheep, there's horses, there's nothing else, and there's a farm which looks to be about half a mile away in distance, because I could see it when we were up there the other day. And he says, I just come to a stop in the road. He said, because there's only my headlights lighting everything up, and I can see a black ball in the road. Not huge. Imagine the size of a hare or a big rabbit, but it's a black ball. He said, it's like somebody's tore a hole in the universe. It's that black. My headlights aren't penetrating it. Nothing. I'm just getting nothing from this. It's just a flat ball of blackness with a purple haze all around it. And as James said, Jimi Hendrix, purple. But anyway, so it's got this purple haze all the way around this ball. So we know it's not an animal. The guy says, what you stopped for? And he went, that. And it shows his fare, his passengers, this black ball who doesn't live that far away. And this guy, in his words, kind of freaked out a little bit. He didn't know what it frightened him. And we're only looking at something, I don't know, let's say 14, 15-inch round. He's looking at it. They don't know what it is. He says, and I slowly drove towards it till I got about 10 feet away. It's 3 meters. That's about right, isn't it? So he said, and the lights just aren't, they're not even, there's nothing. It's like looking into just a big black hole. His exact words were like somebody had tore an hole in the universe. He said, and then it started to move. And this is where it gets interesting for me. He said, and I thought it were a rabbit. And so I said to him, did you see the legs? He said, no. So do you see ears? He said, no. Did you see a head? No. But I'm not saying that there's something within whatever he was looking at. Only Steve would know that. And a really, really genuine guy. I enjoyed being in his company. But something to me was suggesting that's a rabbit, even though he knows it's not. It's a black ball with a purple haze shimmering all the way around it. And it moved and moved and moved and went into the hedgerow and disappeared. That was the sighting. We spent best part of a day just to listen to that. But it makes it worthwhile. You've been to the location. I've filmed location. I'm going to be sharing it with you guys. I don't know when, in a few weeks, but I will be doing. But does that conform to what people are expecting? You know, a lot of people think, you know, you go onto the cliff tops, you go onto the East Yorkshire Wolds, you go to these locations, North Yorkshire, or wherever you are in the UK or wherever you are in the world, and you want to look at the stars, you want to look at the sky, you're looking for UFOs. That's what you expect from unexplained phenomena. And then we've got this guy who's told us about a black ball that sat on the road that caused this passenger extreme distress, fear. And I think he were unnerved by it anyway. But it just shows that, you know, when you think that you've heard all you're going to hear, there's something else to listen to. I find it fascinating, guys. Absolutely. Right, let's just jump on a little bit. I want to tell you one of these stories. Let me do this, and then otherwise I'll not get with. Let's just one sec, guys. So I've got a few pictures. They're not earth-shattering, but it's just the lady's been kind enough to tell me that she went to Bempton. I mean, some of these, a lot of these reports are historic. We've got nothing that said this happened yesterday. I do have some that are a little bit closer, but this was February 27th, 2023. So on that evening, this lady got a red alert for the Northern Lights. Let's just get this right. Northern Lights. And after 6 p.m., she packed a camera and she set off with her children to photograph, hopefully, the Aurora Borealis, you know, the Northern Lights. She lives on the Yorkshire Wolds, so it was just a good hour, half an hour to an hour's drive to Flamborough. So she went to Flamborough Head. There's a lot of people come up there to see the Northern Lights because of those unpolluted skies. It's fabulous. She parked at North Landing car park. Said the weather looked good. The weather looked not good at all. Right, good at all. I thought that's what she said. And it was blowing and there was rain coming off the sea. She thought that she wouldn't have a chance to film the Northern Lights or get any pictures of them that night, but she was there, so decided to observe a little bit. She said there were she took a few shots outside, 5 to 10 long exposure shots to see if there were any visibility at all. When she was outside, there was another car next to her, right and left, there's other cars. Man came out and spoke about the Northern Lights. Somebody there spoke about the Northern Lights, and he told her that he once saw them when he was fishing about a year ago. So they're just having a bit of a discussion. After the chat, she took a few more shots and went in the car to get warm and started the engine and got the heater going. She looked on an Aurora app, and the activity had gone down from red to amber. So, you know, a little bit weaker, the potential to film these lights. So where's he going with this, you're thinking, guys, aren't you? So she thought she'd wait another half hour, then she was going to head back home. A few more cars turning up in the car park, all hoping, obviously, to catch the Aurora. And they park on Bempton Lane as well, you know. Sometimes when we're coming off cliff tops, there'll be cars up there hoping to catch the Northern Lights. It's a fabulous sight. We're not going up there to look for them, but you know, when they do display, you can't help but want to take pictures and a little bit of footage. And the Psionics cameras are incredible for capturing them as well. Right, there was another car parked to my left. I kept taking long exposure shots from inside my car just to see if the Northern Lights were visible through the camera. Just before 7:30, a sudden bright light in the far distance I knew was nothing like the Northern Lights appeared. So what she's talking about are these orange spheres of light that we've seen and filmed. If you watch the film with myself and Steve Ashbridge, I mean, we've been looking at these lights. I was talking about things from 2004, 5 and 6 with Steve, but, you know, we're going back to late 1990s. Right, so first, let's have a look. Nothing like the Northern Lights. In a split second, a few lights became so bright that for a very short period of time, like a change of lights, and they disappeared as fast as they came. Don't quite read right that, to be honest. I still had my camera and timer on the long exposure. I got out of the car, put my tripod down, and took a few more shots. The same gentleman came out of his car whom I'd been chatting with before and asked if I knew what those lights were. You see, I'm bringing this one up, although it's not spectacular. It's not the smoking gun of ufology, but it just shows that there are other people totally unconnected to anything unexplained. And there might be an explanation for these lights, but totally unconnected to anything that we're looking into, guys, that are seeing these things and obviously not reporting them to anybody. It's just something that causes them sort of I don't know, roll your eyes and think, I wonder what they were. And this lady's reached out to us and she's filmed them. He told me he was from Hornsey and he had come to watch the Northern Lights with his wife. And right, so there we go. And they had seen the lights too. We had a little chat about those lights. A few minutes later, another man pulled up next at the other side of me and came out of his car and asked what the orange lights were. So more people were seeing them. So I assume there's more photographs. This lady's got some photographs of the lights, and they're not brilliant, I've got to admit, but at least she's had enough about her to take the photographs. And I said that every time, would you have taken photographs of them? You know what I mean? So there you go. The light near the horizon was a boat. Yeah, well, we know that, and we'll put these two pictures up that you've got in a moment. So, and the second picture, there's a little bit of motion blur, camera shake. And once again, these lights, just like when people take pictures of the moon, they don't look as bright or as orange, should I say, when you take a picture of them with a camera for some reason. I don't know why that reason is, and they don't look as big. So this is the first picture that she took. And obviously the light on the horizon is a boat. And you can see that white light above, which would probably be about at the 2 o'clock position. It's not orange. Let me assure you, even though I've no reason to disbelieve this lady when she says that was bright orange, because we take pictures of them and film of them and they come out white in a lot of instances. And I don't get that either, but there'll be somebody who's probably more versed in cameras than I am that can give us a reason for that. So, and that's looking from North Landing car park. No, fabulous, guys. There's obviously she's set that to long exposure, so she's gathered as much light as she can. Hence, the side of the cliff at North Landing is lit up. So there we go. And the second one, like she said, a bit of motion blur, and there's two lights. So you've got the same boat on the horizon, and you've got these two lights. It makes you wonder. There's a lot of cloud cover if there were more behind it, but I appreciate people sending those in. It's really good of them. Right, let's have a look down here. Let's have a look. Rushall Muffran. Paul, do you find that the UAP and cryptid scene is leaning more towards the interdimensional exploration rather physical presence? It's difficult to say, isn't it? Yeah, and because if you listen to the cryptid reports from overseas with the vast expanses of woodland and forest, you kind of lean, should we say, to the idea that there could be some unidentified bipedal hominid, some relic from the past that's undetected. But then from all places around the world, you realize that it's quite impossible when you hear of what they're capable of doing. And I know we're not talking about the interdimensional here at the moment, but there's just too many elements to what these things are capable of doing, or too many things that people suggest. These things speaking to you in your mind, the movement, sometimes all places all around the world talk about them moving as though they're on an elevator. So it moves on an elevator, so that obviously there's no sound, it's smooth, it's like it's on a running track. And then you've got other times when the footfall is that heavy that you would think an elephant were coming towards you. Is that deliberate? It's difficult to say. And interdimensional, portal, whatever, I really don't know. All I know is, Rush, that these things are being seen, and it seems like with more regularity. But once again, I'll just jump back to the fact that as channels like Truth Proof, who are publicly talking about people's reports, giving people more confidence, these reports have probably been there all the time. But interdimensional portal, whatever you or we want to call it, these things are able to enter our sphere of existence. I mean, that's the only words I'm just using to describe what I think. Whether that's a portal or whether it's interdimensional, I don't know. I don't really think people of science know. We can all postulate what we think it could be, but I think we should all just settle on the fact that either everybody's lying, in which case I've wasted my time for a lot of years, and I'm lying as well when I wrote my book, The Night People. And, I never saw those beings, which is totally totally untrue because I did, and that's why I'm so invested. So either everybody's lying and just have it with nothing to gain but the potential ridicule factor, or there's a truth to what people are seeing and experiencing. And you know that if you're sat here today now listening to this, that there's a truth to it. And probably because you've experienced some of it yourself. Not forced to have been cryptid, not forced to have been UFOs. It could have been something totally off the wall, like a black ball at 2 a.m. on road that gave off the suggestion that it was a rabbit. You know, how crazy does this sound? It really is. But physical presence, there is a physical presence to them, isn't there? You know, with people talk about trees falling, and so they're obviously, I wouldn't say obviously, but these things are capable of creating havoc and breaking limbs on trees. Jumping back to Broxer, Steve and Jimmy, they thought that this thing were growling when it had been stood there that long that they realized it's breathing. The lung capacity must have been immense. Either that or it smoked a lot of cigarettes. I don't know, but they could hear its guttural breathing. So there's a physical presence there. But this ability to walk behind a tree and not come out at the other side, that's no normal animal, is it? This ability to actually be running at, I don't know, 30 miles an hour and hit a steep embankment and carry on going at same pace, same speed. That doesn't seem normal. And the actual physical makeup of these things, if we're talking about what people would call the Sasquatch or the Bigfoot, well, you look at them, they don't look like they're built for speed, do they? They look absolutely blocky and absolutely jam-packed with muscle, but quite endomorphic, quite, thickly set creatures. So, yet they've got these attributes that put them in category of sort of super fast athletes running alongside of people's cars, and all this, people talk about them throwing stones when they're in the forests, the American stories and that, and they're sat there around campfires and stones are landing around them. And when they're fishing on lakes just offshore and big stones are landing around them, there's some accuracy to that they're not actually hitting the individual and they're just landing around them, or is it just pure luck that they're not getting hit? I don't know. I think there's a lot more physical presence to them than some kind of interdimensional presence. It's clear that when they're here, in my mind, that there's a physicality to them. And so sort of labored on that one, guys, didn't I? Let's have a look. Christopher Withers. Paul, do you come across modern paganism rituals like writing on trees, on stones, and offerings left? Yeah, we do. It's not my thing. There's a lady in chat who's got a lot more knowledge on that than me. But obviously in Dane's Dyke, we've got the Clutie tree, but it doesn't look like anything's been added to that tree for a lot of years. And occasionally you'll see new strips of cloth on it, but they only seem to stay on for a week or two and then they've gone. And then you'll see plastic offerings on it, 3D printed offerings, which, to me, these people that are doing it, they're not really versed in the true methodology of paganism if they're going to put plastic offerings and 3D printed images, items on it. But just a bit further away from where the Clutie tree is, where the pagan offerings are, and some people put fossils on. There's a stone there with the markings on it and sundials, sunbursts on it and things. It's been scratched into the stone, and people will leave stones and little offerings on that, and they get taken. I don't know who takes them. I mean, I wouldn't take it if it were an offering. There's got to be some ritualistic thought gone into it. But a little bit further away from that, there's where these trees are bent over. And all the offerings have gone now, but up to 12 to 18 months ago, there were lots of what I would have called offerings, and it were unusual because there was a loggerhead turtle skull, which were made out of 3D printed, but it were huge. All sorts of things. You'll have heard me talking about it, figures of the Adonis, mermaids, bird skulls, but nothing from a natural substance. A huge bell, that's gone. Everything's gone, and I don't think the people who made them have taken them because a lot of it's been smashed up. So it could be kids, but anybody who's got any idea of the methodology and the reasons for putting 3D printed, we'll say, offerings in a location where the trees are not snapped but bent over 20 to 25 foot up in the air, as though some steaming process has taken place. Anybody with more knowledge on that one, just please get in touch. Let's have a look. Phil Turner. Paul, quite a while ago, I read a book called The Hairy Men That Are Seen Around the World. And his cons. I don't know what that is. But Phil, the hairy men, we're talking about the same thing, aren't we? We're talking about the I don't know, almost the prehistoric type man, the woodwows, maybe even the green man. I don't know, and the Bigfoot and the Sasquatch, all names potentially for the same thing. So some people would disagree when we're talking about the green man, because the people that have given me some of the stories talk about him actually looking like foliage, just in the shape of a man. So I don't want to trample all over somebody's visions and thoughts on what that is. But they're all over the world, aren't they? And when we were up in Glaisdale earlier in the week, we visited a church, and I've talked about this other morning, so apologies if you listened to it, but we visited a church where I knew that there were some carvings under the seats, or I had a good idea they were. I'd found some letters in Bridlington Archive that were from the Priory, and there were sketches with them, and it talked about a church in the Forge Valley that had some misericords, some seats in the church that you folded them. They were down, but you could fold them up, and beneath them, hidden, were elaborate carvings. And when I looked at the drawings, I thought, well, one of them looks like what we would consider a Bigfoot, maybe. I weren't bending it too much to do that. I've got all the pictures. I should have put some up tonight, guys. And there's another one that doesn't look like. There's another one that's the Green Man, and there's an angel. There's lots of them. So we went into the church. We managed to get a key, because I've been, even the making of Wolflands, myself and Les wanted to go into that church because we knew that there was a stone carved cross, fragment of an Anglo-Saxon cross, and the carvings they've all been weathered and gone, just lost in time. But there's the feet, which look canine to me, canine feet. But scholars who've looked at the cross believe that they're the feet of a griffin, and they could be equally so. They could be the feet of a canine dog. And that's what interested me when we were getting all these stories from the Forge Valley about the cryptid type creatures seen there, that they've got a cross, and the bottom of the cross, all the other carvings have weathered and gone in time with canine type feet. So I found that fascinating. But anyway, we found the misericords, lifted the seats up, found the carvings, and that were fascinating. I know that's not where we are, Phil, with your question, but I don't know that book, mate, honestly. Let's have a look. Right, Paul, do you believe that the true purpose of RAF Fylingdale is to track nuclear missiles, or something else that prevalent to the East Coast? I know it uses a lot of power. Can you see from aerial pics? You can see from aerial pics. Jim, I think that the purpose of Fylingdales is to track hostile threats from other nations, and obviously it's a warning centre. I don't believe it's been set up for any other reason, but do I believe that it potentially can track unidentified objects that, in the true sense of the word, are real, genuine UFOs? Absolutely. And I don't think they've ever admitted that, but would they? Do you know? Would you admit weakness? Just like I went there and I spoke about a few UFO reports from very close proximity to the base. What people had sent me. One of them was a flying triangle that rose from the moor after some people had been camping. And did Fylingdales pick it up? I've no idea. Potentially it may have done. It may have detected this triangle. But what if it's another nation's tech? Are they going to announce it and put it out into some kind of document for the public to know about? That tells me that if it were another nation's technology, then it shows a weakness in our technology, because we can do nothing about it. I mean, I think it was true unknown, as in a UFO from some other place, not some man-made tech. But and that's not me leaning on that just because I want to go with the UFO hypothesis. Get your teeth in, and because that's just what I believe. And I just think that there's too many of these things seen around these areas. You talk about the huge energy that's required for Fylingdales. Could the huge energy output be what's attracting the unexplained phenomena? I don't know. It's interesting, isn't it, that military bases, not just there but all around the world, have reports of unexplained phenomena, unless it's other nations that just snooping around. But the technology, the objects that are described around these bases don't sound like anything that we're familiar with, do they? But I don't know. This is why I don't think we'll get what people are expecting when they talk about disclosure, because disclosure would possibly mean revealing reports and stories of objects around military installations, and that would show weakness. You can't show weakness, can you, to hostile nations? Let's face it. Right, let's have a look. Let's just go from this. Jojo, thank you very much, and anybody else that's contributed like that, if I've missed it, I do appreciate you. Thank you, very kind. Let's just have I missed a... No, I haven't. Let's have a look. Ian Nightel. Hello, Paul. This is new to me. There is an animal scene in the UK, a muntjac. Yeah. Yes, there has. And it's good that you've brought that up. I mean, it's not exactly unexplained phenomena, but I saw muntjac deer back in 2006 in Danesdyke, and quite by chance, and that were near to car park, and they got little tusks on it, and I've never seen them since in Danesdyke, and there were two of them. And I know I've got the report somewhere. They call them Chinese water deer, don't they? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they do. So it just shows how elusive these things are. And there was a report at Danesdyke, and very early 2000s, and the report was that a Chinese water deer had been found deceased on the beach at Danesdyke. So whether they're there now, I don't know, but they were there 2006. I suppose they're moving all over the country. There's plenty of roe deer, but the little muntjac deer, they're totally different, aren't they? And the sound that they make as well, just like a roe deer. When people talk about hearing strange sounds in night, if you ever, or in daytime, if you ever hear a roe deer, particularly in breeding season, when a male roe deer, they make a hell of a sound. Foxes, badgers. So you've got to be familiar with all those things when you're talking about cryptid-related events and things. People mistaking natural UK wildlife and thinking that there's something untoward going off when it's just natural wildlife being a little bit vocal, But do I believe that these things are here? The big cats, the muntjac? Yeah, they are, absolutely. Let's have a look. Come on. We've got another story, if not. But great with questions tonight, guys. Joe, Disabled Welsh, Margaret Webster, Sarah Hetty. Let's have a look. London Girl. What's we doing here? Oh, thank you. As my assistant's got me a cup of tea, look. In the last transmission cup. So that's good. Thanks, Mary. Let's have a look. Hi, Paul. With all these cryptid reports on werewolves and strange creatures, big cats, are we safe? I think we're completely safe, Mick, honestly. Do we hear of people getting injured? Not really, And we'll jump straight back to the Broxer Forest sighting. I jump back to it every time because them guys, they're absolutely salt of earth. They observed it all night, or it observed them. They're absolutely shell-shocked afterwards. Absolutely traumatized is the words, traumatized. But apart from just giving them some kind of mental trauma, there were no physical trauma. I'm not saying that's in every case. I mean, there might be some cases where we simply don't know because nobody's ever been found and something terrible's gone wrong. But as far as I'm aware, whatever it is that's interacting with people of this nature, it seems to like creating and causing extreme anxiety and fear in individuals. Is it the same thing, do you think, that creates this unseen fear that people feel? when you're walking in a perfectly normal environment, and suddenly this fear descends on you. I talked about it a few weeks ago because it happened to me at Danes Dyke, and then Michael, another Michael, by the way. Well, it happened to me, at the north side of Danes Dyke, but on the cliff tops, because people don't realise, because when you talk about Danes Dyke, you think about that little beauty spot. People don't realise it runs 2.5 miles to the other side of Edland. But there's another guy called Michael, and he descended on him about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and he came and reported it and told me about it. And it's a strange thing. And I noticed in the comments, after I'd done a little recording of Michael and we discussed what it were about, somebody said, just sit back and relax and absorb it. I'm not so sure that you would do that. You might feel like you would, but after you've experienced it, after it's something totally alien is the word to everything that you know and feel as normal, and a fear that's just descended on you, and you've not seen anything, heard anything, nothing's happened, but suddenly you're enveloped in fear. It's not, you can't just sit back and absorb it and enjoy the moment. It's just not possible. Jump into Linny. I mean, if Linny was sat on camera now, he'd tell you about the light that he saw last year. I think I had very early this year or very late last year. Single ball of light frightened him. And he's no fear in saying it frightened him. And none of us should have. Let's be honest about these things. And he told me, he said, and he told all of us there, he said, it really unnerved him. How could that be? A light as big as a tennis ball that puts a fear on a person. I don't know. But no, Mick, I'm not going to say we're safe or we're not safe. My gut feeling is that whatever it is that they're presenting, whatever it is that people are seeing, it wants to create extreme fear in a person. For what reason? I don't know. For its own ends. Let's have a look at this. Davos pork pie. Well, you like pork pies? I do. I love them. You can't get good pork pies now, can you? Paul, on the 21st of August, early evening, partial eclipse will occur. Would it be a good idea to observe up at Bempton? Why not? Do you know something? Even if just the mindset is there, Davos, even if by saying that and knowing that there's a difference that's going to occur that evening, it could set up, because I think a lot of these sightings begin here. We don't create them, but we have to have the right mindset. We have to go in with the right attitude in order to touch on the phenomena or get a connection with the phenomena. And I know there's people going to be shaking their heads and saying, no, you just got to observe. And if you're lucky, you're lucky. So that's, to some degree, I do believe that. But there's sometimes that you get the perfect storm of people, the great combination of people, and everybody's in a similar vibe and mindset. Just like, I'm not an advocate of CE5, but just like with the CE5, just like with using the Ouija board, which we say, and I'm keen to say, we don't use. They're just tools to set the mind in the right direction to connect with the unexplained. So why not? 21st on the 12th of August, early evening, partial eclipse. Why not? It might be a little experiment to try that, Davos. Thank you. Victoria and Brian, let's have a look. Banana Joe, Studio One Productions. What we got here? In the States, many supposed cryptid nests have been discovered. Has anything similar to your knowledge been found in? If you go up into the forests in North Yorkshire, there's branches, and I've heard people say, oh, it's cryptid related. I don't think it is. There's branches sort of piled around bases of trees, and they're all over, they're dotted all over. But it's, to me, simply because my eldest daughter takes part, along with other adults, they take parties of cubs and what have you into the woodland, and they do bushcrafting, and they make elaborate little structures and things. And if you come across one of them and you're that hell-bent on wanting to bend it into a cryptid related event, that's what you're going to do. And people have sent me pictures of these bushcrafted structures and think that there's cryptid activity. That don't make them bad people, but I do believe and you've only got to look, haven't you, Studio, at some of the branches, and you can see that some of it's been cut with a saw. You know, I come across some a few weeks ago. I had a pile of pictures sent, and I've thanked the person for sending them. But they weren't structures as such, if you ask me, because you could see the ends that had clearly been cut. And unless Bigfoot or whatever cryptid it is going around with a little bow saw, or do you know what I mean? It's not happening. They look weathered and they're all sort of decayed and they've been there years. Are there structures? I'm sure there will be, but I've not come across any. So long-winded answer to that one, Andy. But let's have a look here. I went to the RE. Oh, right. We saw the boat, actually. Last week, I went on an RSPB boat cruise to see the Bempton Cliffs seabirds. The guide pointed out the layers of rock under new roll-up and staple new platforms and how deformed they are. Any connection to the activity? It's the Bempton Fault, MB. And you honestly, you can see that there's just layers of them. It's just like a loaf of bread that's fell on its side, and all these rocks are... And Bempton sits on, or is around, a negative magnetic anomaly as well, and it's interesting. This, I don't mean that it's connected to unexplained phenomena, but when we were at Fylingdales, and let me just last week, there's a dike up at Fylingdales called the Cleveland Dike, and that dike and the land surrounding it is reverse magnetism, which is, I'm not a scientist, so I'm not going to go into some great detail with you guys, but it's fascinating that you've got this area reverse, up at Fylingdales, reverse magnetism. You've got the area around Bempton and out at sea with the negative magnetic anomaly, and all it means is that the magnetism is just a little bit, I think it's weaker than the positive or the extra strong. You know, as I say, maybe we need to get somebody on to go through things like the Bempton Fault and other bits and bats. Let's have a look. So, but great. We actually saw the boat as we were stood on the cliff tops. Probably not the one you were on, MB, but it were really close in, because the what do they call the boat? I can't remember. It just left me bloody head. But it's in Bridlington Harbour anyway, and it takes parties of people around during the summer months around Bempton Cliffs to look at the seabirds, and it can get quite close in because it's a rounded bottom. It's not very deep. It's not got a deep hull, so it's pretty safe around the bottom of those rocks. Otherwise, there'll be some damage done. Let's have a look. I find myself... my uncle has a boat in Bridlington Harbour. Let's have a look. It's not even a question, this, but let's have a look, Victoria. My uncle has a boat in Bridlington Harbour. Every time he goes out, the engine always fails certain points towards Flamborough. That's interesting. He maybe needs to get his engine fixed. No, it's interesting. It would be interesting if there's something cutting the motor, and it's like you said, it's a repeat area where strange things happen. I noted that there's a book about shipwrecks. I can't remember who wrote it, and it'll probably be up there somewhere. But there's a book about shipwrecks along the coastline of the United Kingdom, and there was more shipwrecks concentrated around Bempton and Flamborough than anywhere else in the United Kingdom. And it also noted that the skippers and crew, I don't mean on every shipwreck or every sort of potential disaster, but reported compass malfunctions. And at first you might be thinking to yourself, well, they would say that, wouldn't they? That's why, because they've been in places where they didn't think they'd be, the bad compass readings. Maybe they're just not good at their jobs. But it's interesting that there's loads and loads of shipwrecks off Flamborough and Bempton. But that's good. And let's have a look. Paul, can you do more forest walks? Yeah, I can. I absolutely love it, to be honest with you. As I say, I hope to be having a walk with David Clark, Dr. David Clark in week. And it'd be good. I might get a little interview off him and see what he's got to say. I want to talk to him about Silpho Saucer, funnily enough, but that's not why he's coming. It's just pure coincidence. Let's have a look. Nigel, thank you. Super sticker. All right, what's Lee Roscoe got to say? Thank you, Truth Proof has 25,900 subscribers. It's brilliant having this support, guys. And as I say every time, it's your stream. If you're going to sit here listening to me, we'll get some guests on as well. But I don't deliberately not guests, not get them. As you know, a few years ago, we had guests every week. But sometimes when you've spent a bit of time, 2 or 3 hours getting questions ready for somebody, and you think, yeah, you got them on, you've told everybody next week they're coming on, and then they let you down at last minute. So I like this method. I love having the questions from you guys. It's your stream. And this is what it's about for me. I really enjoy it. Plus the odd ones in the week where we do this 5 a.m. I'm going to rename it the Dawn Patrol. So not Paw Patrol, the Dawn Patrol. You can see I've watched too many kids programs with grandkids. 25,900 subscribers. Well, that's brilliant. And if you sat here in front of your PC, your laptop, and you've not subscribed, give us a like and subscribe. A like, hype, and subscribe if it'll do it. It's absolutely free, and it just supports us a little bit. And I may as well take advantage and just say, anybody interested in purchasing the Truth Proof books, there's 4 of these. They're not all orange. Available on truthproof.uk or on eBay, or the Kindle versions on Amazon. And you can also get the Wolflands DVD via the same method I've just said, truthproof.uk, or you can get it on Amazon Prime. And why am I talking to David Clark? Because he wants to talk to me about Wolflands. I tell you what, I'm losing it, guys. And that's quite a recommendation, because David Clark said he's blown away by Wolflands. And I wouldn't say that if he hadn't said it. So I'm really I'm made up about that. And, 40 and Times, the magazine, get us an incredible write-up about our document, mine and Les's. We've got to include Les Drake here. Les put just as much effort into that as me. Mine and Les's film, 40 and Times did an incredible write-up on Wolflands and praised it and said how good it was. And I know it sounds like a brag, but yeah, it is good. I just find it fascinating that the American audience love Wolflands and the UK cryptid researchers never say a word. You speak volumes, lads, honestly. Let's have a go. All right, Christopher with us. Hi, pal. Explosions have been heard near Bempton. Do you know if that is from the quarry? Do you know? I don't. When you say explosions, we've heard loud, and this is maybe what you're on about, Christopher. When it goes on social media and people say, "Did you hear those big bangs and those big rumbles?" And some of it could be aircraft training out at sea, and going through sound barrier. I'm not saying that's what it all is. Years ago, myself and Steve Ashbridge were stood on Cliff Lane, and we'd been to the cliffs, but sometimes it's just good on Cliff Lane. A lot of the people who go up to view the aurora, and look at the northern lights, will park on Cliff Lane because it's quite high and you've got a full 360. But we were on Cliff Lane, I don't know, between 11 and 12 at night, nobody about, and something huge booms and rumbles below our feet. We heard that. And I won't say felt it, but we heard it. It were really big machinery. I used to work at Exhibition Centre in Birmingham doing displays and things, that kind of thing. And where am I going with this? In those huge hangars, when they strip out a display, they've got forklift trucks with big, extra long forks, extra long tangs, and they would pick heavy items up, and odd times if they dropped, they would drop to the floor, and in that hangar, if it were empty, you would hear it reverberate all around. So it were almost as though heavy machinery or heavy concrete beams were being dropped below us. But we've got all those sea caves and caverns. Who's to say that there weren't something collapsing? Because it's bound to happen, isn't it, from time to time? But the explosions, I don't know. And I would say, to be honest with you, Christopher, what quarry? And I know you're going to correct me here, but I'm not sure that there's any big quarries that are blasting stone or rock around there. Right, let's move on. Let's have a look. I've got a few more stories, but you guys are just filling me with questions, which is great. Moldavite. Good evening, people. Talk of portals. As I have told you, I think, Paul, that if the conditions, whatever they are right, the interdimensions blend. Sightings can happen almost anywhere. Yeah, I would agree. And this guy, do you know what we're going to do? We're going to read not today, we're going to read your email you sent us out again, because you enlightened me. You give me so many pointers and team of what you thought were happening and with the spiritual connection, which I'd not thought of. So, I thank you for that. But yeah, it's great advice. Let's have a look. Hi, Paul. I believe after reading I believe after reading so many reports, there's a connection with some of the cryptids and UFO phenomena. Your thought? Yeah, at 55, I absolutely believe there's a connection. You know, Michael Pennock met us on cliff tops. I've been speaking to Michael for years, and he, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 years ago that he first contacted me with his cryptid abduction report, where he was on the edge of Pinchenthorpe Forest, which Al Durham will know where that is. Years ago, I think he'd got 2 of his children. He took them camping, and we've done the story, so I'll just skim through it. And basically, something unzipped the tent in the night, and Michael's looking at this thing that's got a fur-covered arm. Well, there's so many elements to this because it's not fur-covered, because when you actually get speaking to Michael, he said it were almost like iron filings. And it reached over to touch one of his children to pick it up, he believes, but looked at Michael, who was awake, and touched him on the head, and he blacked out. Then he got carried across a field to a UFO. And came to during being carried and was touched on the head and again and passed out. Thought it were a dream when he woke up, until his children talked about seeing the hairy Chewbaccas. So fabulous report. So is that a cryptid connection, or is the intelligence that whatever is within the UFO showing us something else, making us think that it's something else? We talked about Disclosure Day, the film, where Spielberg has shown that the aliens, the unknown others, these beings, present as animals, something more friendly and amiable to a child, which is interesting, isn't it? When you consider that years ago I talked about 1970, or New Year's Eve 1970, coming back and seeing the 2 rabbits and the guinea pig. Long before that film, they never fitted on a snow-covered night on the edge of a little village, did they? But then we saw the aliens. And, for the people that roll their eyes, it don't make my story right, does it? It doesn't mean I'm telling truth, but what was Spielberg trying to depict and put over when he's talking about or displaying the animals presenting to children, but they're actually alien beings? I find it fascinating. So, what we got here? Let's just have a look. Did I write down about that? Tearing the universe. We've done that, haven't we, guys? Let's have a look at this. Paul, we were up at Willie Howe with Steve Collin 2 weeks ago. Spotted a light in the mound and oddly behaving light in the sky. That's brilliant, Jojo. We're going to have to go and spend some time there. Team, get Linny up and Pete up if you want. And listen, people, when we say that, we're talking about with respect. We're not climbing all over a burial mound or a tumuli. But it'd be good just to go up there and observe and spend a bit of time there. Don't forget that things have been documented and seen around the burial mound of Willie Howe for hundreds and hundreds of years. It was William of Newbury who chronicled the strange opening, the sphere of light within the side of the burial mound. In today's terminology, that would almost be like an alien abduction scenario. But that were chronicled hundreds of years ago. So, so we're not breaking new ground here, but you were up there with Steve. As I say, it was good of Steve to come up with us. Let's have a look. So, yeah, I'd like to spend a bit of time up there. Spend a bit of time with Steve Ashbridge last week or two as well as getting up onto cliffs. And me and Steve have sort of been running about in places that we used to do 20 years ago, which has been good. I've enjoyed it. Has anyone else heard sonic booms unusually early mornings? I haven't, if I'm being truthful, but I do see it appear on social media. If you're talking about around East and North Yorkshire, you see these things appear. So people obviously are hearing things. So aircraft on exercise, not supposed to be anything mysterious to it other than aircraft training. Let's have a look. Has there been any recent sightings of military vehicles carrying their monster? No, not that I know of, Michael and Kirsty. No, but watch this space. Who can say? You talk about something like that, and then somebody will report it, and it'll be there. Steve Collin, what's Steve got to say? Hi, Paul. There was something over Staxton Wold early morning. Wednesday, 2:45 a.m. A triangle. Saw it from my window. That's good. That's interesting. Wednesday morning, Steve, because Amanda contacted me, who comes onto Cliff Tops, and she filmed something, and that was probably Wednesday night. She got in touch to say, what time did we leave Cliff Tops? Because I'll not say where she is, but she's got a place pretty close to there, and she'd filmed something. In fact, she sent me footage. I'm not deliberately not showing it you guys. I've just not got it to hand, not loaded up on computer. So that's interesting, Steve. Let's have a look. Jane Louise, can you quickly go over what happened with the ILF interacting with you all? I don't know about this. The thing is, Jane, you've asked me now, so I've got to do it. But I think that every week since it happened, I've talked about it. And it was incredible. And basically, there were 7 people up there in a pretty tight circle, no more than 6 foot between any one of us, and we were on that stand that's been moved. It's been taken away. I think it must have been unsafe, I don't know, but we were there just at the beginning of it. And earlier in the night, Mark arrived because he always comes late, and as you know, there's some 3B1 fencing around the bottom of the stand with about an inch gap between. So that's important, because I saw a light on the floor, literally on the floor at the side of Mark, but you could see the shadows of the fence. So it was obviously from out at sea. So before anybody thinks, oh, maybe somebody with a torch, the 300-foot cliffs, there's nothing there. But so I saw that. Nobody saw it. I said, did anybody see the light? They didn't. That was that. Amount of time passes, half an hour, I don't know. And suddenly a light just appears within us all, and I become really animated because I'm looking at, it's probably in chat, Chris Mack, and it hit Chris in his stomach and lit his stomach up, and he's not even seen it because he's looking at Pete, and he says Pete's hands lit up. Ian's seen it, and he can see it all glowing, and everybody had got a different view of it because it was moving about. I'd have said about the size of a tennis ball, a golf ball, in between. Brilliant white. I think Chris Mack got the best view of this because it were on Pete's hand, and he said it had a blue aura around it, and it was kind of fighting for life and getting smaller, and then just shot off into grass. We also it shot into the grass and disappear. Now that we've never had out like that. That were incredible, and I like to draw on this analogy, draw on this what Mark said, not me, not Linny, not anybody else. Mark said, you've got North Sea out in behind you, you've got the fields in front of you, you've got nothing right and left. That's interaction. It could have gone anywhere, but it chose us, and it really did. So that happened. And we'll keep it really brief, Jane, because I bet people are sick of me talking about this. We'll probably talk about it next week. And that happened. And I don't know, we should have put cameras on. We should have just let cameras roll. So a big failing on our part, mine as well as anybody else's. 10 minutes later, half an hour later, bang, it's there again. It weren't as powerful that time, but it was there again. And then it's gone. And I think it happened a couple of times, very briefly, the following week. And that were it. Now every time we go up, we're hoping that we might get a repeat of it. So yeah, there you've got it, Jane. That's it. Right. Yeah. Paul, are you aware of Patrick Jackson's theory on the Sphere Network? Vaguely, yeah. I've watched a few podcasts and yeah, I mean, we maybe ought to get him on here. But from what I can see, and it's a theory. I'm glad you've said that. It's a theory because that's all any of us have got. Ultimately, we've no proof of the origins of these lights and how they come into existence and how they disappear just as fast. And but it's very good. I'm not knocking it, but yeah, I think that it's been widely talked about, hasn't it? It's no good saying, have you read book? Because I think anybody who knows me knows I don't read many books. Let's have a look. Has the Bobster ever behaved strangely in certain areas? Yeah, he behaved strangely at Filingdales last week when we saw an adder on path. He thought he might go and have a look at it, but Chris picked him up straight away. obviously we've got to do as well, because we know they're venomous and probably could be quite damaging to a little dog like Bobby. So yeah, beautiful things though, absolutely stunning. If you, I'm not a snake lover, but they were stunning. It were a deep red colour, really nice looking thing, as were the slow worms and what have you. But it's just teeming with amphibians, as you know, reptiles up there. So yeah, all good. But other than that, just one little bit of woodland in Danes Dyke a couple of years ago. He didn't want to go in. It was Dave Barker that had told me. If Dave's in chat, Dave had told me that somebody he knew had found some deer in trees, laid in trees, obviously deceased. And I went to look for them. I wanted to see what these people had found, and you know, had just circumstances surrounding it. And I did. I went one day and I couldn't find them, but I was in a different area. After another conversation, I went, but the dog didn't want to come in that area. For some reason, he just did not want to. And I filmed them because it weren't gory. They'd been there quite a long time. And I filmed Little Bobster, and he didn't want to come. I don't know why, but whether they do pick up on things, animals. We know they do, don't we? And you know, I don't know. They're a good indicator. In fact, that's a good idea. I've got a story now, and this involves an animal. So shall we do that? Let's just do that, guys. Let me just scroll down. Oh no, I've got to do this doppelganger story. Got to do it, because this guy sent it me weeks ago, and it dropped into spam folder. So I only found it last week, and it's not a very long story, but you get this. It's brilliant. So it's from somebody called Brett, and. Hi, Paul. I hope this email finds you well. Thank you for your request for more information regarding experiences on Truth Proof, the 28th of the 6th. Right, okay. I've never told anybody else about my experience that I had for fear of ridicule. I decided to open up within the YouTube chat, which is where you guys are obviously now, at your request for time slip experiences. It's a great story, this, guys. Let's have a look. I don't know how to correctly classify my experience, but what I experienced was damn right strange. I'll detail below. I can substantially remember all I can substantially remember, but I'll try and refrain from embellishing the experience, because then I run the risk of creating false elements. So he's thinking deep about this, guys, isn't he? My experience happened during the late 1999 or early 2000s. I was traveling down Sheffield Parkway. It was a clear early morning on my way to work for another day. Mentally, I was prepared for the day's routine. There were no major events happening in my life, so I was mentally okay. I was plodding along nicely. Okay. I saw a car coming towards me in the opposite direction. I saw a car coming towards me in the opposite direction in the opposite carriageway. What caught my eye initially was that the car was the same make and model and colour as my own. It was a Red Rover 216. It also had the same number plate. Surprised. That's what he's put here. I was now drawing parallel with the other car and noticed that it had the same coloured driver's side door. My car had previously been in an accident and had had the door replaced by the previous owner, but never respayed. I got it cheap. It sounds like me. Somebody once ran into my Escort, you know, and I never bothered fixing the door. But cars don't do it for me, guys. The driver's side door was a darker red than the rest of the car, burgundy. At that moment, I was in shock. I glanced at the driver of the other car, and he looked back at me. It was me. Wow, isn't that good? Do you know, just absolutely great. It was me. It was like a mirror other than me. It was like a mirror. The other me had their mouth open aghast. I guess I did as well. And we momentarily stared at each other as we passed in amazement. Brett, thank you for waiting for me to get this one up, because it's great, honestly. I think it is anyway. I have thought often about what could have triggered this experience. Hallucination, time slip, doppelganger, even a glitch in the matrix. I have never experienced anything strange after this encounter, after all these years. My mental health was fine, so I don't think it was an hallucination. If I had a time slip, then I'm guessing since I was traveling in the opposite direction, I was returning from work. Yeah, okay. So I would have thought I would have produced some form of mental after effect on me. It would have produced some kind of mental after effect on me. I'm not sure what is the correct direction of the cause and effect relationship, but I don't think it did. So I move on to the doppelganger theory. If that was the case, I feel sorry for the other me having to drive that bag of rubbish. That car was awful. Yeah, it leaves a glitch in the matrix for a peep into the universe. Wow. Again, I feel a little disheartened and would have liked to have seen the other me driving an Aston Martini just to get that warm feeling. Another me at another time had made a different choice in life. But then again, would I have noticed it was me driving? Thank you for your time, for listening, and for sharing my experience. Thank you. I thought that was great. I really enjoyed that, listening to that one. Myself, when I first read it, not listening to myself now. So excellent, don't you think? Let's have a look for some more questions. Can't believe this time's gone, guys. We'll do that animal one if we've time in a bit, because I forgot about the doppelganger. 1423, night people, you mention a man in a suit who... Oh, yeah, you saw in the woods, stood on a boulder watching. Could it have been a granite boulder? Many strange events linked to granite boulders. Is Bempton on granite? No, Bempton's primarily chalk. I think it's just a build-up of crustaceans, thousands of years ago, Bempton. But that boulder, is still there, and it's sandstone. I'd love to say, yeah, it was granite, but it weren't. It's sandstone. That was strange, that. As a little boy, we should never have gone into Old Deneby Woods. And I lived in the little village of Old Deneby. Went to Big Woodland. And me and my cousin, I'll not say her name. I'm not even sure if she'd listen to this, but I won't. We'd gone up into Old Deneby Woods. I'd have been, I don't know, 10 or 11. The parents would have gone mad if they'd have known we were in woods. She were a year older than me. And we were playing in front of this boulder. And there's the woodland at the back of us. There's about 20 foot of trees and fern, just small hedgerow and fern, and then a fence, and then a field leading down to Old Deneby School. Anybody wants, which was the school originally. So you'd have to Google this if you wanted to look at location. And this boulder looked like a rock face to us little kids. It weren't. In reality, it was probably about 6 foot deep. Might have been a bit deeper, I don't know, and probably same width. And we were creating his own little world there with twigs and characters and what have you. And I just looked up, and there's a man stood on top of it looking down at us. And he had a suit on. I wrote about it in Night People. He had a suit on. I think the suit was black with fine white pinstripes, and he had shiny black shoes on. And very powder white face, and he's looking at us. I can just see his eyes just literally going, flicking. And my cousin I'd not probably met for 20, at least 20 years, probably 25 years, came to a family get together 10 years ago. The first thing she said to me, you ran away and left me. She did, yeah. And that was first thing that she said after all them years. Can you remember running away and leaving me? So let's just set records straight. I looked up, I saw him, I sort of shook her and said, run. And I'd set off running before she'd even become aware he was there. And I were over that fence, and I can still see her there. And she looked up and she ran as well. It's just some strange guy in woods, probably, not everything's unexplained phenomena. But yeah, that it will be. We've gone a long way around to just say it was sandstone. And I can remember mums from village, they all got together like something from a Frankenstein movie and went up into woods looking, how they go looking for this person who they never found. But it was strange. I must admit it was strange. But it was the eye movement. It just, I can still see that. But yeah, and that was the first thing she said to me. You brought back some memories there, 14. There we go. 55. Let's have a look. Paul, have you answered my question? Paul, you answered my question before reading. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize, mate. I'm not psychic. And, let me tell you something today. I told my wife, we went this morning to a car boot sale. And then we called our daughters at Caton, one at daughters. And on way around car boot sale, this lady spoke to me who said she was psychic. And this is crazy, this. She doesn't know me. And she said, "You're going to die without knowing." And I thought, oh, thanks for that. Seriously, that's exactly what I thought. I told her that I'd do the live stream, so she might actually be in here. If you are, put your hand up and say it were you. She said, "You're going to die without knowing." And I went, she says, "What do you mean?" She says, "Don't worry, it's not bad." She says, "I've always had the ability to see these things." She said, "And it's not soon." She says, "But it's a good thing." What a weird thing to say. But I'm not, I'm not really that perturbed about it. So I just thought I'd share that one. That was this morning. And a small world. Anyway, let's go on. Hi, Paul. As the Bobster had an experience with when you and as the Bobster had an experience when with you and reacted to the phenomena. We've kind of done that one, and no, apart from not wanting to go in that bit of woodland 1066, no. But you never know. You may do, and you'll be the first to know. Let's have a look. Let's just. I want to do this Zaphoid Beeble Barox. I'm surprised I can say that. Is there a reason why nothing is captured on dash cams? Well, things are captured on dash cams. And I've got a bit of door cam footage. A couple in Bridlington contacted me months ago, and they said they were going on holiday, but they'd captured something on their Ring doorbell cam, something passing behind them. I think I've played it on here. If I haven't, I will do. And they sent me footage before they went away on holiday, and then they were going to get in touch, and I were going to talk to them about it. So if you do watch this, because I've not got your number, please get in touch, because I would like to talk to you about it. And then we've got Linny's dash cam, Ian, and there's the time that I was driving home from Bempton. Don't ask me year. It's only a couple of years ago, if that. And as I'm in front of him, it's a wet night, and there's a flash of red light in the sky above me, just above the trees. I pull the car in, and I speak to him about it, and he's caught that on the dash cam. What's fascinating is that I've put that footage up, or Ian's let me have the footage. I've downloaded it and put it up, and people are saying that it's my brake lights. Don't they get it? I can't see my own brake lights, guys. With best will in world, I can't. Do you know what I mean? So that were captured on dash cam. Same dash cam, Ian's dash cam, same scenario. And all these are on film. I'm driving home from Bempton. Ian's behind me. This time, Ian's flashing his lights like mad at me. And I pull in. "What's the matter?" He goes, "Did you see that?" I said, "What? See what?" He says, "I thought your car had blown up." His dash cam. So the red light, it's there, but it's not like this orange one. And there's an explosion of light, absolute explosion. It's a whiteout of light, and that's on dash cam. Then there's the other one when I'm driving home with Ian, and as we're talking, he says, "Someone's just passed, again, crossing there. Someone's just gone over the road." And there's an animal, there's something that's crossing, and those lights, you picture the lights that come on the crossings. It's 8 foot just at bottom of the lights. It's higher than that, and you see it go past. It's not crystal clear footage. There's no denying the flashes of light, but there's no denying this either. You can't deny that something does not pass them. So they were caught on dash cam. So maybe 4897. Maybe there are things that are caught with a little bit more frequency, and maybe people aren't looking for it. Because we looked for the footage after Ian had seen something with his wife in car, and he handed me the footage and wanted me to have a closer look to see if I could identify it. I couldn't find anything on footage, but there's a voice. You can hear a voice talking on it. So maybe people aren't looking. I believe that you guys will be looking because you switched on to it. And it don't mean that everybody else is as dumb as toast. All it means is, though, that, if you haven't had some kind of experience, then you're not looking. And let's face it, as we've said loads and loads of times, guys, not everything's true unexplained phenomena. But anyway, I do think things are caught on dashcam. I really do. Let's just go down a little bit. It's because I'm going to do this other story in a minute, because you got me on with these dogs and animals perceiving things, and that just works perfect. Let's have a look. Hi, Paul and team. I've been away for a year or so. What experiences had the greatest impact Well, Phil, we've already done it, mate. You've probably heard us talking about that light that visited us, as I've called it, the visitation. That had effect on us all, and it really did. And what's great is that although we haven't got one shred of proof, because it's only in here and you're only hearing it from my mouth, you can hear it from other 7 people, and they'll all sing from the same hymn sheet to one varying degree or another. They all saw it from a different angle, but one thing that we all carry with us is we all saw it. Would it stand up? No, because there's no film of it, is there? Do you know what I mean? And there'll always be somebody coming up with some kind of explanation. Oh, it was a torch or just some favourable light conditions. No, it weren't. It was a ball of light that travelled and bounced about between us. But we've done that one, haven't we? Let's have a look. Come on, let's have a look. Gerald Thompson. The black hole story sounds like looking into a missing piece of reality. Who can say? It really is a fascinating account, that, isn't it? You can imagine just driving between 1 and 2 in the morning and rounding a corner and seeing something, I don't know, 12 to 16 inches round that is so black that your headlights aren't doing nothing. But you hear a lot of that, don't you? You hear a lot of that with cryptid reports. It were blacker than black, or the shadow being type reports. These things were blacker than anything that I've ever seen before. Just took black to another level. So it's fascinating. Let's have a go. Oh, there's another one. Shows how far behind I am. Christopher Withers. I wonder if this black ball was a portal or something that just came through. I don't know. I always like to favour the witness, though, because you think to yourself what formed in his mind, although it could just be that he's got some preconceived ideas. But the first thing that formed in his mind was like it was a tear in the universe. A tear. And when we used to go onto the Wolds, myself and Steve Ashbridge, sometimes with these lights would appear, these spheres of light up on the East Yorkshire Wolds, and it were almost as though they didn't belong in the sky. I know it's difficult to even comprehend maybe what I'm saying, but they looked like, and I think I've written it. I know I've written it anyway. Like they were a tear. Like you were probably like looking into something else. It was like they didn't belong there. I can't think of his name, but the lady we're talking about, the long exposure shots to get the Aurora Borealis up at Flamborough. They were also, I wish I could remember the guy's name, because he sent me these incredible photographs from a few years ago when he took a party of photography students up. And I'm searching for a name as I'm talking to you guys. And I think he'd got it at something like a 29-second time release exposure, long exposure. And during that process, and I think this is proof, this is brilliant proof. We've not got proof as good as what this guy took. And he was kind enough to let us have a photograph. An orange light appeared during it's in this process of taking a photograph. Let's say that were 10 seconds in. 18 seconds in, another one appears. 27 seconds in, another one appears. So you got these 3 lights in the sky, and then it takes the photograph and the lights disappear. But what it proved is, this is a photography guy talking about it, not me. They've not travelled from anywhere. There's no streaks across the sky. They've just literally come into our sphere of existence. That's the way I kind of term it, because there's nothing to suggest that they've come from anywhere, and that the camera would have gathered the information of these incoming lights, but it hasn't. And it's fascinating. So, do we get a glimpse into some other type of reality when people see a cryptid and it just walks out of existence? Is that because we're in some kind of thin area within the fabric of our universe that allows these things to be seen temporarily and then just slips out of sight? I don't know, but it's fascinating, isn't it? Let's have a look. Gemma Sinclair's in, I see. All right, Gemma. Seem to know that name. Let's have a look. Lee Roscoe. That's what's Lee put. Welcome. Can you put uppercase in, or it may get missed? Yeah, I think we know that. Thanks, Lee. Rain cloud. Hi, Paul. Please tell us more about what's happening around Saltburn and Boggle Hole area. Well, I think at this time, to be honest with you, 2336, I ought to do a little bit of preparation and we'll cover that area. And I've no problem doing that because there's loads and loads of reports and high strangeness around that area. I'd love to live up around there, to be honest with you. But then again, I'd be on my own because there's nothing there. It's fabulous. Let's have a look. Can you occasionally point out locations you discuss? You can on the map behind you. I see there's Bridlington, Bempton Cliffs. Otherwise, I don't know the places. Not a huge deal, just a thought. Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, it's a good idea. And at one time, to be honest with you, 16Y, all those pins and the different colours represented the different types of phenomena. As you can see now, they've been used for just, I don't know, sticking on bits of paper and things. So not always in appropriate places. And the yellow ones were all for the light form activity, and it were out at sea back there. It were filled with it and various clusters in different parts. And it were good because it did show where the reports were concentrated. So yeah, you make a good point. Thank you. Let's do this story because I know there's some questions, and if I don't get to them, I don't get to them, guys. But let me just see if I can find this. And I've called it the Skirlington Trapezius. It might make sense. I could have called it something else anyway, but I think it's an interesting story. First, good evening, Paul. First of all, it's slightly out of my comfort zone, and I'm also a see it to believe it kind of person. Well, we like that, don't we, guys? Actually, that's the way to be. Remain open-minded, but also remain highly skeptical, because a lot of this stuff's going to be explainable. Let's face it. Some of the things I'm talking about tonight, there'll be a perfectly rational explanation for, but we've just not got it. And so it's going to be there. Do I believe that we're dealing with true unexplained phenomena in some instances? 100%. But let's not categorize everything that everybody sees as a true unexplained, myself included. I'm a 52-year-old electrical engineer who lives in Leeds. I own a caravan on the Haven-owned site called Far Grange. I'm not going to set plot. He's given me that location between Hornsey and Skipton, not far from Skirlington. I've been given your email from a friend who listens to the show. After I spoke to him about something that I witnessed at my caravan on the East Coast on Friday, the 21st of June. Let's just move up a bit, guys. So that would have been, I think we were 2020, but 25th of June. I thought I'd put that down. Before I go any deeper into the account, it's worth highlighting that the month of June has once again, this is me, provided us with an incredible sighting, because I've noted, although if this June's out to go on, it's failed us, but June is usually quite prolific. No doubt there'll be more in the coming months. So you can see how long since I wrote this. Right, the witness continued with what happened. It had been a very warm, clear day, and I remember saying to myself that after dark and due to the lack of light pollution, it would be good to sit outside and chill and stargaze. It was around 11:30 p.m. Again, this is not specific because I remember popping my head out about 30 minutes earlier, and it's still not being completely dark, and making a comment to my wife about it not being dark enough, even at 11 p.m. I was laying on the sun lounger facing southwest, but more or less looking directly above me. At the same time, I was reaching over and stroking my dog, when suddenly she jumped up and started barking. So dogs perceived something, do you reckon? This was not unusual for her. She is a Norwegian elk hound, and they are known to be a vocal breed, if hearing or picking up scent, as well as the hunter-herder defender type animal. Most of all, elk hounds are known to be courageous and don't back down, because they chase elks and corner them while barking for their owner hunter to arrive. This I have witnessed with my girl when out walking with her, although only with horses, cows, and worrying once with a bull rather than an elk. Yeah, it might have come unstuck there, mate. Yeah. As she started barking, a flock of birds of around 6 or 8 flew over me southwest to northeast. It was pitch black, so I thought it was strange, but I suspected still not too unusual. So it's thinking that's the reason for the dog's behavior. However, then she did something she has never done before. Her ears and head went down, and she suddenly stopped barking, and she whined as if in pain, and instantly went inside. So what we got there, guys, the animal reaction, be it pets, livestock, we've talked about it tonight. The probably closest thing we've got to an alarm, if there's something highly unusual going to take place in some instances, don't you think? Some kind of early warning signal to the presence of a true unknown phenomena. Although, would we be thinking that when it's that rare? Right. As soon as I got off the sun lounger, I noticed 5 lights, 2 in front of me, 3 behind. 2 in front, 3 behind. Strange colour, more of a reflection, if that makes sense. They were forming what looked like a trapezoid shape, flying above me from the southwest to the northeast towards Fargrange Golf Course and then over the sea. I estimate that it took about 3 seconds to cover the distance between the main Fargrange B1242 entrance, West View being the first left, and over the golf course and out to sea. That distance is about 1 mile. So it's fast, whatever it is seen. Whatever it was deadly quiet, about 30 feet in length and probably 100 feet above me, as he's estimating, okay? A couple of seconds later, I heard the nearby trees swish. So there's some kind of draft that this has caused, as they would on a windy day. It had been a clear, calm evening with no wind. It could have been a gust of wind, but to be honest, but I don't know. From the start to finish of the experience, it lasted no more than 15 seconds. I don't suppose we'll ever know, will we? And I think from start to finish, he's talking probably about his dog going in as well. I cannot rule out the possibility, man-made, I cannot rule that possibility. Let's have a look. When I went inside, my dog was lying in the corner still with her ears and head down and looking up at me. I didn't think much of this, as everything apart from what I saw could be just normal. Dog barking, birds flying over, even a gust of wind. But after speaking with my friend and listening to the stories on the East Coast and listening to the weirdness, it has convinced me that all of these things occurring within 15 seconds of each other and seeing what I saw probably was more than just coincidence. I can also confirm that I had not been drinking. I know what planes and helicopters look like, day and night time, and I know what the ISS is. And there you go, guys. What do you think? I've also seen satellites, iridium flares, and many meteors. He's just sort of backing himself up here, but I think he comes over as being really level. And it's the dog's reaction that I find fascinating, especially that character, that breed of dog, and is, acting like it did. What do you think, guys? Interesting. And that's at Skirlington, which is 15 miles, 12 miles from where I'm sat now. So, and it's all along that coast. There's another place called Ulrome. It's a little village, but on the coast there's caravans at Ulrome. A lot of caravans around here because we're on East Yorkshire coast, aren't we? You got people, caravan sites, as well as people with touring caravans. And a couple contacted me. They'd got a caravan at Ulrome, and they contacted me on 2 occasions to say that their caravan looks out to sea from where it's positioned, and they could see green lights under the sea. And I don't mean bioluminescence, because the guy who films the Aurora Borealis, Paul Mortz, who's pretty well known in area and all around because he takes some incredible pictures. He contacted me in week to stress to me, if you see any blue lights in the sea, contact him, let him know, because he wants to try and film them. He'd already been somewhere in country and filmed bioluminescence of this blue light as waves were breaking on shore. But these didn't sound like it. They'd seen a rectangle of green under the sea, and they'd seen it on 2 occasions. So that's fascinating in itself. Anyway, let's get back to a few of these questions. We've got 10 minutes, haven't we? Let's have a look. Hi, Paul. Greetings from Kirkwall, as usual. Hi, greetings, Gregor. Is it possible to order all your books from you personally and all signed? If so, I'll certainly put in an order. This coming, just get in touch. It's not, and yeah, we can work around that. Where Wolverine rocks. Yeah, we can get around that. You've got my email address. We'll sort some out. No problem. And incidentally, I think on eBay and other places, some of my books are for sale second hand, and it says in good condition, signed by the author. They're actually more expensive in some instances, loads more expensive than mine. And mine are brand new, and every book I sign. Well, I don't charge out for that. I've noted that some people within this community, and probably other, if you want it signed, we'll charge a bit more. It's a pen, guys. Come on, get real. 25 pence. It's easy to sign, innit? I can hardly write, by the way. It'll be a scribble. Thank God for spell check. Right, let's go a bit further. Phil Turner, Bigfoot and the like, could they be descendants of Nethanderals that have retreated in the wild, modern humans? I don't know, Phil, is my answer. I just don't think. I mean, I sort of bang on about the North Yorkshire Moors National Park being 525 square miles of forest, woodland, moorland, and sort of barren land, untouched land. But I still don't think that these things are here permanent. I really don't. And somebody might be able to prove us wrong one day. I see the potential for that in the vast wildernesses of Alaska and places like that where something could go undetected, but not here. And then we jump back every time, Phil, to these abilities that people. If you, not only are you putting your neck on line by saying you've seen something like this, so open yourself up for ridicule, but then they talk about them going behind a tree. I know I've done this tonight, and not coming through other side, just tree that wide. Some 3 or 4 foot wide of shoulder width, just past this tree and don't come out other side. Walks like it's on a conveyor belt. Runs at great speed when it's built like something that shouldn't be able to run at great speed. Self-illuminating eyes, bioluminescence. We've just been talking about it with the marine life and things. But these animals, eyes that glow in the dark with no torches on them. There's so many elements to what we're looking at that doesn't conform or don't conform to some natural living, breathing creature on terra firma, in my opinion. But once again, it's only my opinion, guys, and I love hearing other people's thoughts on it. Just don't tell me you know, because you don't, and I don't. Well, I don't mean you can't tell me, but if you do, I'll probably just switch off. And mentally, I'll not be listening. Right, Jane Louise, have you any idea why you're experiencing night people? Seeing what you did stopped. I haven't, Jane. It's strange, but I just think that as a species, the human species, certain elements of whatever it is that's interacting with us, they're just using us for their own end, for what they want. And as a child, all I could think that they were getting from me were fear. And there must have been some kind of sick pleasure in deriving or creating extreme fear. Because it stopped about 14 years old. But it's almost like your life's planned. Because all that time went past with very little happening in between. And then 1993, moving to this property, it started again. And I've said it loads of times, guys, haven't I? It didn't just start up months and months after moving in. It started straight away. Started when I was coming up to this property, getting it ready to become habitable, because there were no hot water on or anything when we first got it. And why was that? Is there something pre-planned in everybody's life? Is there something going to happen again? It hasn't done. And as far as I'm concerned, it's finished with me. I hope it has. Because I think it stopped in 1998, 93 to 98, and then it stopped. But then I was switched on. I was onto that path because I'd gone from 14 into adulthood, getting married. We've got 4 kids. I'd hardly told my wife anything. All of this were in here. I didn't realise there's a lad at school when, as a little boy, I'd told, and I met up with him years later, and he told me about things that I'd been speaking about, which are in Night People, which I wish I'd have spoke to him when I was writing it, but I might be able to get him on here even one day. And he knew about Christmas 1970. He remembered me telling him. I didn't know I'd told him. That's crazy, isn't it? If you're watching this, Adrian, get in touch. What I'm going to say, though, everything seems too convenient, doesn't it? Even the property we moved into had a lot of activity, a lot of strange goings on in the property years and years before we moved into it. And all the strange symbolism on the walls, and every floorboard you lifted up where there were lights, there'd be a page from the Bible or a Saint Christopher or a crucifix, all that kind of stuff in this property. And then Reverend Willis, the exorcist, And you'll find lots of information, guys, because I know I'm touching on things here that we've not gone into detail over, but you'll find information on Reverend Willis and his exorcisms and the TV programs made about him. We're from Bridlington. He visited the property shortly after we'd moved in. We never asked him. So everything seems too perfect, doesn't it? I don't know. Are our lives mapped out for us? There's no such thing as coincidence. You've all done it. You'll talk about something. You'll talk about somebody you've not seen for years, or something you've not done for years, and suddenly it happens. Are we getting a little glimpse into something that's already waiting to be triggered in our minds? I don't know. Or are we acting it? It's difficult, isn't it? Yeah, you said my mind in all directions, Jane. Let's have a look. Let's just see if we can fit another question in. 2 sugars, please. This is Sinclair. I must be well behind with these questions. I don't take sugar, guys. I don't know about you, but I'm so greedy. Honestly, yeah, I'm not going there. I've been trying to lose weight, and it's so hard when you're greedy like me. Let's have a look. Tyzone Live. Tis only me. I'm going to say Tyzone. Paul, this may sound daft, but the fear thing with these creatures, cryptids, could it be the fear of seeing us rather than the other way around that some people are experiencing? Who can say? I wonder. I was going to say then, but I'd be wrong. When I was going to say, are they even aware of us? But they are, aren't they? In a lot of instances, they are. Do you know the guys on the cliff tops, the military guys who claim to have seen that thing? This guy said that he thought it was a hyena at first. He says because it was hunkered down and all its back were bristling. And this is on a freezing cold night on 2019, February the 7th, I think, 2019. And they've got 2 dogs with them. The dogs were terrified. And he said, and then it stood up. And I don't think it were frightened of them. And it did some peculiar things. If you're going to make a story up, he's making peculiar elements up to the story. He said it put its finger under its chest. And let's just get rid of this, then you might be able to see what I mean. And it were going like that, but not to them, as though there were another one, as though it's beckoning something. And that he couldn't take his eyes off his finger doing that. Then it took a step towards them. They backed off and made it along the cliff tops and back, and they've not been back. I really don't know. I really, it could be. They could be fear. Maybe it's the fear of being seen. Maybe these things aren't meant to be seen. Because in a lot of instances, these things that are seen are in locations that are that remote. So whatever they're doing, whatever they're trying to achieve, they're not in places where there's heavily populated places. That's what I'm saying. How many times have you heard me say, guys, that if in this particular area of East Yorkshire, if you want me to stick a pin in a map and say where I would like to spend time observing, it'd be Speeton, because there's a lot of reports come out of Speeton and it gets no footfall. It really doesn't. Let's just have a little bit. All right. I'd love to know the name of the shipwreck book. I can't. Do you know something? I'll get the book, Jane. I think you've got my number or my email. Email me, because I'm going to say I'll get it for next week, and you know it'll go straight out my head. But I've got a few copies of it. I think I've given Andy, the Ghost Hunter of Durham, one of the copies. I picked one up at a car boat sale. So Shipwrecks of the Northeast Coast. I'm sure that's what it's called. I can't remember his name now. Sorry. It's Bridlington man. Definitely a Bridlington man. Let's have a look here, guys. TP4 books, night people available. TP would thank you, Lee. That's all good. And don't forget, I know loads of live streams and podcasts are saying it literally every 15 minutes. Don't forget, like and subscribe. And half at time, I forget. But just give us a like and subscribe. It's just supporting us. It's absolutely free. And just gives a little bit more incentive to do a bit more. Bringing down the light. Let's have a look at this. Hello from sunny Rudston. No better than Rudston. I got a report from Rudston actually other day. And don't forget the Green Man report, whoever contacted me earlier. I want to hear 2 light anomalies photographed this evening at the monolith. Wow, that's brilliant. Funnily you should say that. And I'm not going to get to read this out now, but there were a lady took some... I've got to read it. We'll have to do it because it were Rudston. Let's have a look. That's just come right, that. Hold on, guys. 1 sec. See if I can find it. I'm going to have to just scroll through here. And then I'm going to have to say goodbye in a minute. Skirlington, let's have a look. Watch me not be able to find it. Oh, sorry about this. Light contrails. Right. It's not Rudston. Hi, Paul. Me and my partner were driving to Thornwick Bay for a short holiday. As we got nearer, I remarked to my partner, look at those contrails, they look odd. There were 2 sets of parallel lines in the sky. I thought no more of it. Then my partner was looking at the photos and said, look at these contrails, look at the orbs in the contrails. Let's have a look. They are not a reflection. We took them, we looked at the coordinates and they were near Fridaythorpe. So not far from Rudston, really. You know, and we're not saying next to Rudston, but we're only talking 12 miles away. Near RAF Huggertwold. The date was 22nd, and I don't know what month, Lisa. Let's have a look. June. 22nd of June at 11:30 a.m. So she sent these pictures. Okay, guys, they're not the smoking gun of ufology. I'm keen to say that. And you'll struggle to see what I'm see them, but I've zoomed in on one, so you will do. So have a look at that. So look at these contrails. Look at the very bottom one, the dark lines at the bottom, which are just some kind of reflection. And then look at this one. And you can see that there were 2 lights. Whether it's some kind of reflection, some kind of refraction of light from a bright sky, it could be. But I thought it were worth looking into them, because it's just come up with this Rudston 2 lights. And bringing down the light, I'd love to see them. And I'm sure everybody in chat would, if you want to share them with us. You've got my email. So, yeah, have a look. Where are we, guys? We're just about there, aren't we? It's brilliant, because, you know, we've had in between 360 and 380 people all night. So I really appreciate your support. And I'm not going to promise to do a early morning one this week, but I will if I can. What I don't want to do, guys, is commit myself every Thursday or Friday to getting up at 4:30 to jump on at 5 o'clock. And, you know, but if I get up, I'm usually up early, so I'll do one. Let's have a look. Urbex Pies, Lawson Industrial Estate, middle of it. Best pork pies going. Wow, that's how can you not finish on a live stream about unexplained phenomena without a question like the best pork pies going? Absolutely brilliant, guys. I'm sorry for any questions that I've missed. Definitely see you all next Sunday. And I usually say we'll try and get a guest on, but if anybody's got connections with some really good guests, set it up for me. Help me with it if you want. You know, if you know somebody who would be potentially good. I mean, Professor Simon Holland said he'd come on. I'd love to interview him. It's just I've not got round to it. Whitley Strieber said he'd come back on. No problem. So, and there's no problem getting some really high-profile guests on. It's just everything's time with me, and I'm dashing about all over. And I do enjoy this interaction with you guys. And to be honest, I prefer it. So I'm going to say good night. Thank you very much for support, and we'll see you next week. Okay, bye-bye. Is this an adventure or what? We don't need unexplained phenomena. I hope you guys are enjoying this journey we're taking you on. I know you come expecting to hear about big cats, cryptids, UFOs. We will touch on some of that, but I think it's worth sharing some of this with you, don't you? There's only 2 living souls up here today.
Because I can see it in my mind, I can see it in my head what I saw, but I can't describe.
Our eyes was closed, like a brightish light in my face, and I just felt paralysed.
Someone said there's something out there, so we had a look. It looked like a walnut. That's the only way I can describe it.
It was like it had loads of tiny little windows all over it, and it had lights in those windows, but not a light that illuminates.
Anyway, we were ushered into this lounge. This fella come in and said, whatever you saw was a weather effect.
And everything is deathly silent. There's no sea, there's no wind, there's no night noise, because, you know, there's foxes all over here. There's nothing.